Tonight we're going to share stories of resistance from the field against the pipeline for our water, for our environment, for our future. And it's not just Standing Rock, as you probably know. It's not just the Dakotas, it's the entire watershed all the way down to New Orleans that is endangered as a result of these pipelines. We're going to start tonight with a clip from Todd Darling.
We want to make sure that everyone's safe is here, and that the message is out there that we're against destructive climate change. A lot of these officers are just doing their job, so our goal is to also, be aware that of our surroundings as well, not be on private property, not cause any tension that doesn't need to be there. And I'm sure, from what I understand, a lot of them don't want this pipeline to come through here, but they got to feed their families as well. They're in positions of colonialism where they're stuck in colonization. And so, we're trying to express to them what decolonization means, protecting the mother, protecting our water, the four-legged, the winged ones, the fish, the insects, and also for the future generations.
Hello, my name is Harbin Dietz. I'm Mashpee Wampanoag. As a Native person as well, it's also just great to see so many Native people from so many parts of the world there. There's folks from Ecuador, folks from Chile, folks from Canada, folks from Mexico. The Sami people from Finland have come across to show their official support, and it's really an amazing thing to see such a gathering of tribal indigenous people come together in support of something so fundamental to all of us, water. It's really the foundational truth. Folks are up there putting their bodies in the way of construction. This is how the fight is being carried out. They can't run heavy machinery if people are on the work sites. They can't continue to dig and put pipes into the ground if people are flooding the work sites. So this is the strategy that people have been engaging in. Go and put their bodies in the way of these machines. Sometimes that means the machines are still moving and dangerous. Sometimes this means that people have to lock themselves to these machines so that they cannot be turned on to function. These things draw arrest, not only in direct action against these machines themselves, but also just some of the supporters who've come out to support the people who are engaged in these very direct actions, come out and support, are arrested for trespass, for singing.
I feel called. If we feel called, should we go? Because I cry a lot and I need to know. Please tell me what we should do, and I'm here asking you, and you're not the end-all be-all, but I need to know from someone who's there if we all need to jump in our cars and we need to go. And I'm doing it for him. This is a little Indian too.
There's a lot of prayer there. You feel called. They're calling you.
It's okay for him to go? Will we be okay?
Nothing is certain. You gotta look at the world and how it could be if you don't.
Right.
By and large, most of the time, 98% of people probably won't have an issue, but this kid did get hurt. Can't tell you everything's going to be fine, but you're hearing the call. It's reasonable to have fear. I'm not saying don't be afraid, but it's sometimes a matter of rising through that fear, facing what must be faced. That's my. These children are depending on us to save this world for them. As it stands right now, if we don't do something to change it, they won't have a world left to live in.
And again, that's in December of 2014. And when that happens, we expect that maybe 20 or 30 people are going to show up. And what actually happened was 250 people showed up from across the state. And that's when we realized that this is bigger than we thought it was. So we had students there, we had landowners, it was mostly landowners, because landowners felt like they didn't really have access to the information that they needed. We had landowners standing up and crying and talking about their land, and this was emotionally moving, and at that point we decided, okay, we've got to sort of formally organize ourselves. And what came out of that is, we had some strategic planning sessions and all this boring stuff that I won't get into, but we started organizing across the state. And at first this looked like hosting a lot of informational meetings like this, where we got landowners up there, we got students up there, we got a lot of people up there. Just talking about what this meant for them, sharing their stories, sharing about their interactions with the pipeline company, and sort of building support in their communities. And all across these states, these meetings would turn out 20, 30, 200, 300, depending on the community. And resistance started growing. But then the pipeline company started hosting their own misinformation meetings for landowners. So they started making promises to landowners. They started talking about, this was going to bring jobs to Iowa's economies. Then they got the unions on board, which was really tough for the left. You can imagine when your union brothers and sisters are showing up and protesting you at your own events. So I guess I say this to talk about the complexity of this because over 2.5 years of organizing, what we saw was a massive shift in Iowa's political climate, I would say because of the work of people on the ground working on this pipeline. And what that looked like was, to give some context in Iowa, what do you all think about when I say Iowa? Like, what comes to mind? Corn. Thank you. Yeah, so I was hoping you all would say that. So corn comes to mind. And this started with a lot of landowners and a lot of community members talking about this in terms of the risk to our agricultural industry. And when you would go to meetings, and I'm going to show some photos here in a bit, but when you would go to a meeting, you would see people talking about corn and people talking about agriculture and saying, we can't put this pipeline in the ground, my God, if we did that, it would ruin our agricultural economy. And that was 2.5 years ago. What it looks like now is, instead of people saying like, my God, we can't put this in the ground because of the risk to our agricultural economy, they're saying, my God, we can't put this in the ground because future generations. Like, we can't put this in the ground because climate change. We can't put this in the ground because we need to be good neighbors and good allies to our Indigenous brothers and sisters in South Dakota and North Dakota and in Iowa and beyond. We can't put this in the ground because it's going to end up in the Mississippi River. And I should say in Iowa, it crosses underneath the Mississippi River, which impacts our entire world. So what started as this localized battle over eminent domain and over private property rights and this really colonialistic language ended as a struggle for community and a struggle for future generations and a struggle in allyship. And it's ongoing.
What's happening? Well, people are still, many people are still standing rock. They are very determined. Someone said to me today, the grandmothers all feel like they're going to win. So their confidence in this is pretty overwhelming. Part of it strikes me is that this pipeline is just right on their doorstep. I mean, it can be measured in yards away from the Standing Rock land. So they're usually when some hideous environmental fossil fuel nightmare arrives at some locality, there's not many people around, and there's not many people around who care. Well, in this case, there was a lot of people around who cared, and they showed up, and they're willing to put their bodies in the way, and it's because it's right on their doorstep. And someone else today said to me, it's like this is, in effect, thanking the Dakota Access Pipeline for providing a focal point to, first of all, protect the water and strike what he said was essentially a death blow to the fossil fuel industry, and at the same time to spark a civil rights movement for indigenous people.